Welcome to PCB Chat. I'm Andy Shaughnessy, Content Architect for PCEA. Here with me today is Wally Rhines. Wally is the spokesperson for the ESD Alliance, which is part of Semiconductor Equipment and Materials International. How you doing, Wally?
I'm doing fine, Andy. Good to talk.
Good to talk to you, too. Wally joins PCB Chat every quarter to share details from the latest ESD Alliance report on sales of computer-aided engineering tools, semiconductor tools, PCB design software, related IP and services, and employment. Wally, why don't you just start off by walking us through these results for Q1, which, got to say, look pretty positive. Tell us about
it. They really were. It's a strong quarter for growth, up above the four-quarter moving average. The overall growth for total EDA was 12.7% worldwide. Now, if you include IP or if you exclude IP, it's a little lower, but in general, about 2 points higher than what we've seen, 2.5 points higher than the last four quarters. Particular strength in Asia Pacific, although they were coming off a weak compare from a year ago, but even so, that was largely China driven. And then we also had good strength in Europe and modest in Japan, but low double digits, weaker in the US, which is unusual. And in terms of the type of tools, one I know is of interest to your audience is printed circuit board and multi-chip module. That's right along with what it's been the last several quarters, about 0.5 point higher, just under 5% growth year to year compared to the first quarter of 2025. Very strong growth in CAE, the front-end tools, capture simulation, 15.5%. Physical design, much stronger than it has been recently. That's usually a reflection of a lot more integrated circuit design going on. And semiconductor IP, very strong. You expect that if integrated circuit design is up, then you expect the IP purchases to be up. They were at 14%. So overall, quite good growth, both geographically as well as by product category.
And now a word from our sponsor. Join the electronics design and manufacturing industry at PCB West 2026, coming September 29th to October 2nd to the Santa Clara, California Convention Center. Sponsored by the Printed Circuit Engineering Association, PCB West is the place thousands of designers, engineers, fabricators, and assemblers of printed circuit boards go for learning the latest in components, ECAD, and manufacturing processes. From drones to automated vehicles to wearables, there's something for everyone involved in the electronics supply chain. This is one show you cannot afford to miss. Registration for the conference and exhibition is now open. Be sure to book your spot. For more information about PCB West, visit pcbwest.com. Brought to you by PCEA, Engineering Tomorrow's Electronics.
Yeah, it was good to see that PCB was up some. I mean, not huge numbers, but, slow and steady.
Right. And there are, if you dig within the numbers, of course, we encourage your listeners to subscribe to the reports and get all the detail. But just to give you a little insight into that, within the numbers, while PCB was growing just under 5%, PCB analysis continuously is much stronger. That's 16%. That's right in line with what the moving average has been. Those are tools to do thermal analysis and power analysis, CMI analysis of printed circuit board designs typically. Another real highlight and a significant one is that package design jumped 46% year to year. Big growth. And I guess a lot of your listeners probably think, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
A lot of chiplets, a lot of multi-die layouts on substrates, that kind of thing. Physical design a little relatively flat in the total numbers, and there's another category that pulled down the totals. But overall, I think it's intuitively what you might expect. Strong packaging and strong analysis tools, not so strong schematic capture and layout.
Yeah, it seems like the analysis segment just keeps on growing. I mean, I guess we just can expect to keep seeing that.
I think that's true, and we've seen EDA companies keep introducing more tools, enhancing those tools, because printed circuit board design and package design get closer and closer to IC design as the feature sizes shrink and the onboard frequencies increase. Then we need more and more detailed analysis of noise and thermal effects and how we can improve the power dissipation in a design. And so I expect that that's a long-term trend. We'll continue to see more detailed analysis of system-level tool applications.
Right. A lot of this was driven, the Asian numbers were driven by China.
Yeah, so China had been, over the last couple of years, had been much weaker. It used to be the driver, almost always the fastest growing. Then it really tailed off, and last year there was some concern about export controls, drove the numbers down, and we had some very weak quarters. That seems to have bounced back some. The year-to-year comparisons are to an easy compare. A year ago in first quarter, there was just under 400 million of revenue in China. This time it's just over 500 million, so big jump up. But so that was where you got the 30% growth. Mm-hmm. But if you look back over the last couple of years, this is not the highest. We had a quarter that was above 600. Mm-hmm. So not that far out of line, but clearly it drove Asia Pacific, and right behind it was Taiwan. That I think Taiwan was about 22%. Let me look. 22% growth in Taiwan. India a little less, 8.5%. We didn't see any growth in Korea, which. And Korea's been pretty flat, and that I think puzzles people because the memory industry there and the other systems companies are so healthy. You expect faster growth, and maybe we'll see that in the future, but it hasn't shown up yet. That's overall, though, the totals for Asia Pacific lead the way for growth of sales of EDA tools and IP worldwide. And in China, the growth was particularly strong in IP, 44% year to year. So they're purchasing a lot of intellectual property from companies that report in the survey. The domestic Chinese companies in general don't report, so that means it's purchases from U.S. companies.
So most of these numbers are for export. They're not for the domestic China consumer.
Right. We do have some reporting, and we have European companies reporting, but over 90% of the revenue of the EDA industry comes from companies that are headquartered in the U.S.
Sure.
So we capture most of the data, but China is, of course, attempting to stimulate the growth of its own EDA industry, and it's made some progress. So we're a little remiss in getting those people signed up to report their data to the EDMD survey. We'll hope to do that in the future.
Right. Speaking of China, I've noticed I haven't heard the word tariff in a while. It seems like it's sort of reached a point of equilibrium, I guess.
Well, of course, there are no tariffs on the product we export.
Right.
So EDA people aren't particularly worried, but I think they are worried that it does depress overall sales from China to other places, and that's hard for the world to make up because China has such a deep infrastructure of capability for products, and so I think those of us who operate the free market would like to see the tariffs diminish or disappear as soon as possible. I don't know if that's in the cards or not. Probably not.
Right. Are there any soft spots that we should keep an eye on?
Well, in PCB, I mentioned that the capture and layout were relatively weak, in fact, weaker than their moving average. In other broader parts of the industry, for example, the front end of design, they are actually our largest category of CAE, computer automated engineering. It's driven very heavily by verification, either simulation or emulation. Emulation particularly strong this time, but there are other areas that are also doing quite well. Maybe not as rapid as that, but they tend to be pushed toward the verification side. Analog mixed signal is a very steady business. The only outlier that is strangely weak, well, there are really two. One is power analysis, and one is design for test. And I think if you look at the longer term, those have both been weak for the last 4 quarters, but I don't think they're really being de-emphasized. I think there are other factors going on that I don't think people are doing less test development. I don't think they're doing less power analysis, but the way tools are purchased, the way contracts renew, we've had some movement in the industry. The leading supplier of power analysis switched as they sold their company during the last year. So I think some of those things are more the contributors, more than these being indicative of any significant design trend.
Well, it's all looking pretty good. It looks like we have our 21st consecutive quarter of year-on-year growth?
I didn't check that this time, but you are probably right, based on what I said last quarter.
Yeah.
And that's good. In fact, I get more questions on when is the bubble going to be over? When is AI going to stop propelling this? When is NVIDIA's year or more backlog going to start decreasing? And even all the other things associated with the data center. And the answer is, I don't know. But these kinds of periods of strength tend to go on much longer than you would ever expect. But ultimately, things like the memory capacity is going to be affected. We have big memory fabs coming on in the next year or two. And the demand for HBM is so great that maybe we'll blast right through that. But on the other hand, in a product like memory, it only takes one excess unit to bring down the house of cards when the people are double ordering and triple ordering. So we'll see. It's right now, it really looks enormously strong going forward.
Wally, is there anything you'd like to add? I think we've covered most of everything that had on my plate here.
I just say that this is a great period for EDA, but it's been a great period for a while. We have such good growth in the semiconductor industry, going after that $1 trillion annual total market, that it's dragging EDA along with it, or EDA is dragging semiconductor along. And so it's a great period to be in the industry. Designers are attacking new, more difficult problems. The demand is strong, the revenue growth is good, and the hiring is good. We didn't mention that, but hiring in the EDA industry was up this quarter over 12%, almost 13% compared to a year ago. And so it's been a good place to work. It's been a good place to find a new job, and a good place to deal with the leading edge of technology with some of the most challenging problems, but a great deal of reward that goes along with it.
Which is really something, considering so many people are retiring now.
It's true. And another question that arises, people talking that, oh, wow, with AI assistants, with Claude in my group, I basically replaced what I would get from an inexperienced employee, so I don't need to hire as many. What seems to be happening on the other side is, hey, I need to hire people who know something about AI
right.
and also know something about design, and that's new college graduates are not a bad source. So we'll see. Apparently in EDA, it leads to greater total employment rather than less employment.
Right. Well, we'll find out. Then we'll talk again in 3 months when the next quarterly report comes out. So.
I'll talk to you then, Andy. I'll look forward to it.
All right. Always a pleasure, Wally. Once again, I've been speaking with Wally Rhines. I'm Andy Shaughnessy for PCEA. Thanks for listening.